Welcome everyone to the well, it's not a live stream this time, is it, Linda? It's more of a recording. We're going to post this video up. We've been talking over the last couple of weeks about detox and several different types of detox and why they're good for you and what you should do about that. And today we've got a topic on detox, but it's a little bit different. Linda, do you want to kind of explain what this detox? Because we've been talking about detoxing the body, but there are things that affect the body that are outside of the body.
Oh, that's for sure. And it's not quite spring cleaning yet, speaking of detox, but we were talking about losing extra pounds from the Christmas season. So we launched the Cabbage Soupathon to get everybody in the mode for detox. And
Which I'm
then
still on, by the way. Just
hey,
saying. Just
way to
saying.
go. How many days? Holy moly.
I don't know. It's
That's
been a
great.
couple of weeks now, I think.
I'm with you. I just finished spending an hour and 15 minutes making another huge pot last night. So all that chopping and dicing was awesome.
Yeah.
And it's a good backup, like when you really need. But, anyways, need something to grab fast, right?
Exactly. So we've got a guest today, which I'm totally excited about, to talk about a certain type of detox, and let's bring Stephanie in here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
And Stephanie and I have known each other for about 12 years, and she's listened to me commenting about detox and improving people's health by uh, methods of herbs and homeopathy to actually drain the body of this bioaccumulation, whether it's helping your hormones, as we did on a previous YouTube, or whether it's just a general detox for feeling better, getting our moods better, sleeping better. There's numerous benefits to doing a detox, but you, my dear, are in today to help us discuss an issue that I see when people start doing these detoxes. They actually start looking around, is it the garage, the basement, my relationships, my workplace? Where else do I need a detox? And financials is another one that people need to do a detox or a reassessment and
Yeah,
reset. What do you think? And I'll leave it up to
100%.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've found that when you and I work together, that other things become more important to look at as well. As you start to feel better inside your physical body, you start to realize that there's other areas that also have blockages. And one of the areas that really comes front and center is finances for just about everybody, and it's one of the areas that you can use as your canary in the coal mine for, am I about to start to go down that path where I'm going to need all of Linda's help and and be in an acute phase versus being able to catch it before you get too far down that rabbit hole and in trouble. And so if you look at how you're feeling about your finances, as if you're willing to look at them for the first time in a year, and you've got a stack of envelopes that are statements from credit card companies or loans, or um, you know uh, envelopes from CRA or whatever it is that's sitting there that you've just been ignoring. It's the same as somebody who is eating unhealthy and they're saying, I give up. I'm just going to eat at McDonald's and all those places. And then all of a sudden they get into a health crisis. Well, the same thing happens with finances. And
And
Oh,
so,
and that kind of affects the body then, doesn't it, Stephanie? Like that,
absolutely.
those emotional things that are going on affect the body. And you would
Hmm.
agree, right, Linda, that
yeah. Good
there's
point.
a correlation there with because you're not going to sleep well and other things that you'll probably bring up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people like to talk about the physicality, but they didn't tell me that they're crashing in their financials.
Hmm.
And so maybe if they cleared up their financials, then they could sleep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no sense just um, taking a herb or a drug for that matter to address the problem. So, Stephanie, how can people get around that issue? Have you got some detox ideas for them?
Yeah,
I
just
do.
basic stuff that helps the layperson go like, where do we start? Because that was one of the challenges, right, Linda? Like, where do you start in a
Mm.
detox? And there's so many different ways. So financially, that would be really quite interesting to understand.
Yeah, an analogy.
Well, the first thing that you have to do is recognize you have a problem, which is the first thing, right? So step one
For
is you have
sure.
to have to get to that point where you're willing to look at it, which is what working with you does, because you treat the whole person, mind,
Yes.
body, spirit, finances, and whatever else you're bringing along with you. So um, everything is in the room when they're with you. And then to get started on your finances, the first thing is you need to get clear on where you are. You got to pull off the band-aid, so to speak, and you've got to get a sense of what's the state of my union in my finances. Are how far are we, down the debt rabbit hole, or what leaks are in my bucket, my financial bucket that my money flows into, and there's all these holes in my bucket, and it's going through, and it's being spent on things that aren't getting me ahead, so to speak. So it's getting really clear on where you are. So you need to do an inventory similar to how you might with your diet on what you own and what you owe. So figure out, like how much of the
Inventory,
house
yeah.
do you own, how much of the car do you own, and how much of it is still on a debt, and then how much money is coming in, actual money to your bank account every single month. That's after taxes, after your um, EI, your CPP, your benefit deductions, all of that stuff. What amount of money do you actually have coming in on a monthly basis? And then how much money is going out? Because sometimes that's a different number substantially, and you're going into debt every single month and you might not consciously know it, because maybe you get paid in big chunks of money, and you see, like if you do project work, for instance, and you're a consultant, you get a big chunk of money and you don't realize how much you're overspending on what the 12-month budget wise would look like. And so just taking a look at where we are, doing that kind of financial intake that you
Yeah.
would do with you, Linda, with yourself, and figure out, what does it actually cost to live the life you want?
Yes,
Because
and that's so true because I think we eat well until you start writing it down maybe and really paying attention. So what you're saying is really paying attention to the influx and the outflow in some kind of spreadsheet, I guess you suggest to people. I'm not sure. How do
well,
they keep track of that? And how do they decide it costs them this much? Like I hate the word budget. Like people, oh, I'm trying to think, what do they hate? Gary, what do people hate to hear from a naturopath that would be like what, you know,
would be like
Stephanie's
to
going
be
to present?
heard.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, we all have these starting point things where people have to overcome in their brain, right? It's like, in your case, Linda, it'd be probably be, we got the blinders on and we don't want to come to realization that maybe we have some health problems. We're just going to keep hunkering down and moving forward. And I think the same is true for finances for Stephanie. Is people need to come to a point where they've, for lack of a better term, hit rock bottom with regards to that specific thing and say, okay, I need to get a handle on this because it's eating me alive. And that can be in both verticals as far as health or finances. I think that there's got to be a tipping point, as it were.
Mhm. 100%. What I would say is that when you feel like you might be approaching that tipping point, or if you think wondering if you're anywhere near it, it's a good time. That's your own body and your mind and your soul telling you that you need to take a look at this, so that it doesn't get so out of hand that you're in a health crisis, and now you're either um, seeing you, Linda, or you're in an ambulance on your way to acute care, because you don't want that happening.
Yeah, no, and we all want to live well. So you were just saying, how do I want to live? What do my finances need to look like to
Mhm.
have a healthy longevity with this amount of money?
Exactly, because there, it's not about how much you make. What I have found is that people with very, very high incomes also live a very, very expensive lifestyle. in most
Mhm.
cases. And so it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep and what you consciously work with and to build your future. And so instead of budgeting, I don't do budgeting, I do what's called cash flow planning. We assume that people are adults and that they're able to make their own decisions with their variable um, income. So you have two different types of uh, income streams coming in. You've got income that's destined to pay your fixed expenses, and then you've got income that's destined to pay your variable expenses. Your fixed expenses are the past. They're what's already happened. They're the things that you're avoiding when you're letting the statements pile up because you don't want to revisit that you did that. You know, you went on that vacation. It was awesome. And now there's a $5,000 credit card bill there and you just don't want to look at it kind of thing. Um, when you're coming at it from a cash flow planning perspective, we take the entire amount of money that's coming in and then we look at, okay, what are the fixed expenses? What does it cost to put a house over your shelter, your basic living needs like Maslow's hierarchy? So so you're not out on the street, you have food, you have clothing, you can get to and from your employment, you are able to survive without being at risk health wise. So that might include um, being able to come and see you, Linda, on a
Yeah.
monthly basis or biweekly or whatever the need is for that individual, that they're taking care of their personal wellness. So those would be your fixed expenses. And then everything else. So gym membership, because you don't have to go to the gym to work out. You can work out using your own body weight in your basement. So you have to decide, is my value that I value uh, my gym membership more than something else I might do with my variable money. So you have to make your own adult decisions and be in charge and live with your own adult consequences when you split up your money into these two piles. So you have to make sure there's enough in the fixed income or fixed expenses pot to pay everything that needs to be paid when it needs to be paid before the end of the month. So when you operate that way, we have found that people that are in 80% fixed expenses, 20% variable. That's kind of the as fast as you can go. That's the Deerfoot 100 kilometers an hour level of speed that you can do with your wealth and still get ahead.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
as soon as you're at that at 81 and higher, not going to work. Where you are in the sweet spot is in the 60 to 70% of your money being those fixed costs, and that would include things like putting into your RSPs, your mortgage payments, all the things that help you create that lifestyle that you want. And then when you have your 20 or 30% left over, you can decide, okay, am I going to have that Starbucks or that tea, or am I going to bring my own little canteen of it because that's not that important to me to the office, or am I going to go and pay for it, and you're making that conscious decision. One of my favorite stories a client told me was, we love this cash flow planning because we used to go out for dinner with our friends and then we would have wine and dessert and all these other things, which
Hmm.
is okay in moderation, but they were
Absolutely.
doing it very regularly. And so they said, well, a good bottle of wine is, could be $80 for us, it added on to the bill, so on and so forth. So they decided that they were going to take their friends back to their house and have the wine that they really enjoy, and it
Yes.
only cost 20 something a bottle, and they were saving the $60 plus they were getting wine that they truly
Enjoyed.
loved and enjoyed, and so they were happy to spend that money, so they're not causing a
Stress.
compromise stress in the body because they're putting something in that's so instead of something that is fantastic. And so they loved it because they were tracking their behaviors, and they said, our
Mm.
friends come to our house or we go to their house and we sit
Mm.
around and we spend so much more time together, and it's a better experience overall. So we go to the restaurant, we have our dinner there, then we go to the other location for the rest of the evening. And that's just a change in behavior. It's a micro change that makes a really big impact on the budget, because $60 a week savings, that's a lot of money.
I like what you said when you were talking about the fixed, that the investment, the RRSP, was a fixed cost. And I don't think a lot of people think that as a fixed. They want to have that as something else. And I think that's brilliant. Where just get your mindset that that's a fixed cost, just like rent or mortgage or whatever it is you're paying out as fixed cost. Your lights, that's another fixed thing. And I like how you put that in there, because I think a lot of people don't. They think, well, if I've got extra, then I'll put that into an RRSP.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm,
That's the
mhm.
pay yourself first versus pay yourself last. And if you pay yourself last, you'll pay yourself nothing.
Yeah,
So you have to value yourself, and you have to value your future self enough to pay yourself first.
Right.
love
So
that.
the detox part of that comes with a detox of the mindset, and then
Yeah.
the money understanding. So that contributes to
Do you find,
good
Stephanie, that
outcome.
a lot of people, um, whether it's a mindset or just a lack of knowledge, aren't doing some of these things? Like the person that's binging at McDonald's doesn't really understand how much that's affecting their
Mhm.
longevity and health. Do you find that as well in the financial industry?
Yes, that's a huge thing, because the way that our brains work is that we are always focused on the present, and we are always seeking comfort, whether that's in the form of unhealthy food or unhealthy behaviors. And the detox part of what I do is helping you get to the point where you're detoxing the unconscious self-sabotage that you have in your life, and it's there because it's serving you.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's serving you on some level. It's either a behavior you learned as a child to keep yourself safe, or it's a behavior that is just comfy, cozy, and easy, and I'll worry about paying the rent at the end of the month. I really want to do this, go to this concert, or do this once in a lifetime opportunity. And it's fine while you're at the opportunity, but then the month catches up with you and you need to pay the rent. And now you're going into debt, and now you're sacrificing your future for something that's already happened. So
Mm-hmm.
And it,
bringing that
yeah.
conscious decision and that planning around your spending, and detoxing the self-sabotaging behaviors that are in your finances is really, really important. And this is where you make massive leaps and bounds in your wealth by doing this.
And I work with a lot of financial advisors in my industry, and this is really unique to be able to approach it how you approach it here, where you're doing this detox, um, to a reality check, of where's their head in this whole thing. How are you looking at finances? I think that's wonderful, because I don't think a lot of financial advisors, at least in my experience, approach it that way. But I think without approaching it that way, how can you actually create a financial plan for somebody if you don't understand where their head is?
And how can they stick with it? Because
Exactly.
in
Sustainability.
working with Linda, I know in my own health journey that I've been on with her for years and years and years, we we are heading in a direction, and there's going to be times when I take a little side path, and then Linda helps me get back on track, and then I take another detour. But I have to have that accountability partner in Linda to be able to steer me back and help me understand why I did what I did, so
Mhm.
that I can then evaluate those triggers in my life that are driving me to do those behaviors. And there are triggers in every part of your life, whether it's your physical well-being or your financial well-being. So
Yeah, so that results either in the bank account looking like this, or you have symptoms in your physical body,
yes, absolutely.
just like that. And health and wealth, I kind of like the way those two words go together. um, because you can't, if you don't have your health, then there's no point having wealth. And yet, you can't accumulate wealth without health either. So
Well, and you see a
it
lot of
kind of
people ruin their health trying to get the wealth and not balancing it out, right?
totally. So it's all so wonderfully interconnected, and yet a little frustrating. The way I like to address people with their behaviors, Steph, is when I say, "What's the payoff? What is the real payoff for that behavior, wanting to pick that donut or do something that isn't in your best interest? And
Mhm.
do you have the wiggle room, like you were explaining, to indulge?"
Mhm.
So foundationally, you're saying we should, to detox the financial portfolio, from what I'm gathering as an analogy. So you have a foundation that you're comfortable with, and then you go dip in now and then when you're able to. And for me, foundationally, you might have great genetics. So you can lean on your genetics for a while. And then sometimes it just catches up with you, or life catches up with you, and you have to do a correction, a detox.
That's right. That's totally right. And the idea of you're on this path and you've got good genetics. Well, you might have a really good experience with money, no trauma around money as a child, but in our culture, we don't talk about money at the kitchen table in most cases with our children. Um, and as a result, they see us pulling credit cards out or plastic out of our wallets and paying for things, and they don't realize what goes into making the money that is actually the
Car.
on that card, and that it actually has to be paid back. And when you've witnessed this or uh, done the behavior so much yourself, you're not realizing it's real money. And so the detox part, the first step in working with someone from a cash flow planning perspective, is to put them on a cash diet. So that's the equivalent of
Ooh.
your cabbage detox. So
Okay.
Love it.
Explain.
so the cash diet, well, they both start with C for the first thing. So they're both very good for you. And with your cash diet, we figure out what your variable amount of money is you have in the month, and then you divide it by the number of weeks in the month, or days in the month, however you want to pay yourself. And then you go to the ATM and you take out your daily, your weekly, or what 2 weeks amount of cash, and you put it in an envelope or your wallet or your purse, whatever you prefer,
Yeah.
and you put your credit cards and your ATM card in the freezer.
I've heard of this before. This is good.
And you don't have to fill it with water and freeze them in a block, but just you're going to freeze your credit, like literally. And then you're going to pay with cash. And so when you go to the grocery store, because groceries are a variable expense, you don't pay the same thing every single time, you're going to be pulling out dollars and you're going to be thinking, okay, well, I
Hmm.
am going to need to stick to this number, because if I go over, I'm putting stuff back. Like in the olden days when I was a child and we paid with cash, if someone didn't have enough money on them, they had to put the bananas back or whatever it was. So you're putting yourself through an exercise of becoming conscious around your choices that you are making in the spending, which also leads you to choose
Better.
less impulse items.
Yeah.
So you're not buying the chocolate bars and the gum and all the stuff that puts us in a crisis health wise and financially, because you've made a conscious decision. You've put a list together, you've figured out approximately how much it's going to cost, giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room, and now you're going to pay in cash. And you do that for 90 days, because it takes 90 days to make a financial habit.
Not
I
the
like
And
it.
21 that everybody talks about. 90. That's a good
no, it
point.
takes 90, because this stuff is so like it's under the surface on us. We
Hmm.
really have to, this is like
Hmm.
training wheels time. and then you can graduate to using your debit card to pay, but it's still cash because the balance is going to go up and down, up and down. No more using, the MasterCard or the Visa to pay for the groceries. You're going to still be paying cash. And then eventually we can graduate you back to the same thing if you're one of those points collectors that really struggle with a cash diet. The dollar amount that you are paying for your interest on your extras that really aren't enhancing your life costs more than what you are spending or missing out on for your travel points, most cases. So 3 months isn't gonna ruin your traveling too much, and this is what you need to do to detox your finances. It's the best first step anyone can do on the action step. So first, you have to get clear on where you are. How much are you working with? What does it cost to be me? And then switch into cash, and then have that accountability partner, whether that's um, someone like myself or a confidant that you have. I highly recommend that you do not do this with your spouse because it creates butting heads, is what I've seen from an accountability perspective, because one spouse might think that the wine was really, really important, and another spouse might think that a new pair of shoes was really, really important, and it doesn't balance out. There's no computing, so you need that compassionate observer, third person to help you along that way.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like I'm going to throw the word awareness in, because when you're doling out the cash, that's a different awareness than saying, well, I pay my credit card off every month. I mean,
yes,
yes, you do, but you're not really aware of what you're specifically buying each time like you do when you're putting out the dollars. Am I right there?
100%. And you will
Mhm.
be buying a lot more healthy items and almost no unhealthy items without thinking. So you're making that choice. I am buying this chocolate bar
Mhm.
versus not. I just throw it in the cart kind of thing. It's an entirely different level of consciousness.
Yes, I
That
can
is so
see
cool.
that.
That is so
Way to
cool.
go.
But it
I
takes
think
90 days to get to that framework where you can actually be at that place. I love
Hmm.
that. That's really important. And it's like a regular detox, right, Linda, for your body. It takes time, and you may have to do several to kind of get you where you need to be.
Oh, yeah, I love the 90 days phenomena. I mean, many things don't start to heal or um, approach more symptom-free scenario until later on. You might get a quicker turnaround. Prescription drugs are set up to make you feel that you've got a quicker turnaround, but is it really a healthy turnaround, and is the problem really addressed, or it's just put to the back burner, just like you were saying with financials. Yeah,
Yeah,
very
that
interesting.
Yeah, this
the
is this
root
has been
cause. Hmm.
so this has been really interesting. Linda, do you want to summarize the between the two, how the synergy is between the two, and how a person should maybe make some steps forward?
Oh, geez. Well, I liked Stephanie's summary, and I think we'll go back to it after I finish here, because she's the star of the show with the financials part. Um, I just brought it together because I could so clearly see how they both relate to our success as feeling happy in life. And many of us are feeling challenged at times. And so, what are the areas of our lives that can get us feeling better, both physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, all of these things? And it takes a clarity and reality check, really, to
Excellent.
move
Yeah.
forward. So thanks,
So what?
Stephanie. And if she could, should we give her a chance, Gary, and let her summarize those? I think she had
Absolutely.
5 points.
And then what we'll do, Stephanie, is we'll get you to send us those steps. We'll put it in the description when we post this.
Perfect. So to summarize, the first thing is getting clear on where you are. So there's 4 questions you need to answer. What do I own? What do I owe? how much comes in monthly, how much goes out monthly.
Yes,
What
I got it down.
So those then tell you, what does it cost to live my life? And then the next step is, once you've figured all of that out, is the cash diet.
Yeah.
The cabbage soup.
Financial cabbage soup.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So then you organize your expenditures. Once you know what it costs to be you, you're going to classify as fixed expenses and variable expenses. And variable expenses are the ones that fluctuate and aren't your heating bill or any, if it has any emotional charge to it,
It's
it's
considered
a
a variable.
variable. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
totally.
Oh,
So
that's if you're wondering which category does it go in, probably variable.
there you
is
go.
is is the thing. And you want to try and get into that sweet spot of 60 to 70% fixed expenses, so that you have more money to live. The variable gives you more wiggle room to absorb the opportunities that come our way, and participate in concerts and trips, and live your best life. So then the last thing is finding that accountability partner, whether that's someone who does my kind of work, or whether it is a confidant that is a non-spouse. So it could be um, just a bunch of colleagues getting together, and deciding that they were going to report whether they did well or not. You don't have to share your intimate details of your finances, but how'd you do last week? Did you have any slips? Like, that's basically the level of connection that you need. You need to have someone that you have to actually bare your soul and say, yeah, I went off track, or no, I had a great week, and then they can celebrate and do the happy dance with you. So that's
Awesome.
and have that great glass of wine of whatever they wanted to have. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
there's always rewards.
yeah. Well,
hmm
Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been awesome. Some really good takeaways. I hope everyone who's watching has been able to see the value in their life by taking some small steps to detox your financial situation, and at least get to a point where you're cognizant of where you're at, and reach out and get some help from someone like Stephanie to help you get on track if you're challenged to do it. And that's the same with Linda. If you're needing to get your health in order, you need to talk to a professional to be able to help you get where you need to be. So again, thank you so much, Stephanie, for your time. Linda,
Totally.
as always, all this has been wonderful, and we hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and all the best. And we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.